Hey guys, it's Tony. In 2024, I decided to move my life from Sydney, Australia to London, UK in order to live out my dreams, living abroad and traveling like most people who come here do. But one thing that was a struggle was knowing where the heck to even start when deciding where to live in London. So I'm going to break this down into a few important factors. 1, overview of London itself. 2, how do I find a place to live? 3, transport and convenience. 4, what are my thoughts on certain areas? And 5 is my current living situation. Okay, firstly is an overview of London itself. So, as you can see here, the city itself surrounds the Thames River, running through the middle of it, and is split into various boroughs which are located either north or south of this river. So this includes really popular ones such as Tower Hamlets, Hackney, Camden, as well as Lambeth, etc. The main business districts of London are usually the City of London itself in the middle, as well as Tower Hamlets, specifically in Canary Wharf, which is located around here. So this may be something you need to consider if you actually want to work in these districts, and that will determine where you will live as a result. Westminster is kind of the other main hub where you will find the main government buildings are situated, and also where the main city centre is, because it's where the main shopping district is, as well as the tourist hub within Soho here. Other than that, you'll find at the other boroughs where people will reside depending on what vibe and what atmosphere you want. So it's pretty much surrounding like this kind of area around here. Venturing any further than that is quite far away from the city centre. Second is a place to live. If you're looking for a place to sublet or join an established household, which is kind of ideal, especially if you don't have a job contract already secured, then spareroom.co.uk or roomies.co.uk are really good ways to kind of look for these places. These sites are consistently updating every day, and it's a good way to gauge and compare prices and what exactly you want. And you can also specify how many roommates you want and how many rooms and how much you're willing to pay and what kind of conditions that you want when you want to live in somewhere. So same with Roomies as well. You can actually create a profile for yourself and kind of advertise yourself as well on this site. If you're looking for signing up to a completely new rental, then you can look at websites such as Rightmove, and you can contact the agencies directly. But just be mindful that if you are signing onto any rental contract and not just subletting, they do usually require reference checks, credit scores, and then proof of employment as well. If this can't be provided, you have to be prepared to possibly pay 6 to even 12 months upfront of rental payments in order to guarantee that you can actually live in this place. Okay, next thing is transport. So transport via the tube is probably the most important part of living in London, as it is the most efficient way and they are best modes of transports to get around, as they do arrive every few minutes. It's very, very, very efficient. These tube lines are usually split into different types, which will dictate where they will take you and are priced based on the zones in which you are traveling in. As you'd expect, if you're traveling in zones 3, which is kind of around out here, zones 3 or 4, they're fairly far away from the city centre, and you'll therefore have to pay a lot more in order to get to the city centre, and obviously it also takes a long time as well, which is not really ideal if you're looking for that city living in London. Next, as you can see, south of the Thames River, there is not a lot of tube lines beside the overground lines, which means getting around becomes a lot more difficult and time consuming, which is why not a lot of people actually live down in that area, at least that I know of, unless if you're wanting to find somewhere cheaper, for example. Whereas if you were to live somewhere like Canary Wharf where I live, I actually have 3 lines. I have the Elizabeth line, which is that purple line there. I have the DLR, which is that blue line there. And I also have the Jubilee line, which is the grey line here. So you can see it kind of takes me in multiple different directions where I can stay connected to the entire city, especially if one line is down, I can just jump on the other. I'll show you another map as well, just to kind of get you an easier idea of how it looks, because that map does look quite a bit complicated. So just looking on Google Maps and just looking at the transport lines, this is a bit more simpler. Once again, just to reiterate, there are different lines which are different colors, which will take you to different places. And I'll go through exactly what each of these lines are like in a sec. But I just want you to familiarize yourself with the fact that there are different lines and they lead to different places, and certain lines are better than others. And the main thing is you want to be close to a line, if not multiple lines. It's also important to note as well that there are privately owned rail lines such as National Rail and Thameslink that run through London. So those are the pink dotted lines that you see here. So these lines are not part of the tube lines, so they actually do cost more to use, which is why a lot of people generally avoid them if they can. But they are great to use if you're going kind of outside of London, or you need to get somewhere like Gatwick Airport, for example. It's a good line to use in that respect. But other than that, people generally try to avoid using them because they do cost more. Now, about the lines themselves. Well, I usually take the Elizabeth line to work from Canary Wharf over here quite often. And that line is by far the newest and most comfortable line to ride, because it is very spacious. There's safety doors when you're entering the tube, there's air conditioning, it can get busy, but it never feels really like claustrophobic and hot in there. So it's actually a very, very nice line to live along if you do live along there, and fairly safe as well in terms of pickpocketing. And just to note that a lot of other lines in London don't have any air conditioning, so this is one of the really, really nicer ones. The overground is the orange here. The overground extends to quite a lot of places, which is really good. And it generally is along with the DLR line, which is that blue line here. They're usually the second most comfortable because they're overground and they get a lot of airflow, and it's a lot more spacious as well. And it's just a nicer ride because you get to also have a view with your ride. Most other lines, like the Jubilee, which is the grey one here, Northern Line, so the black line here, these use older and smaller trains. They're a lot more tighter, they have barely any ventilation, and they are very hot. So it can be quite uncomfortable in these trains, especially because a lot of the time they are jam-packed. So that's also something to consider if you are planning to live somewhere along these lines. Specifically as well, the Northern Line, as you can see, as there's not many lines going down this way, especially to Clapham, which is a very kind of popular area for a lot of Australians particularly to live. This is the only line that goes up and down. So one, there's a lot of stops, so it can get very crowded because a lot of people are coming on and off at various stops. Especially in the morning commute, you can be jam-packed, like absolutely sardined, and it can be blistering hot as well. And there's also, from what I've heard from friends, there's always a lot of delays using that line. So as nice as it is to live in somewhere like Clapham or Battersea, using the Northern Line kind of sounds a bit rough from what I've heard. Okay, so next is, what are my thoughts on certain areas? So just a reminder that these are my subjective opinions from myself and what I've heard from others. So just take it as you will. I just wanted to start off with some places that people consider less safe to live in due to its crime rate and overall vibe. This would include places like Lewisham, which is kind of located down here in the southeast, Brixton in the southwest, and places that are generally considered to be improving but were known for kind of high crime rate, Hackney as well as Canning Town. So they are better now, and they're becoming more gentrified. It is safer, but it's still kind of a bit dodgy. So even though it's fine during the day, it can be a bit dodgier at night, as a lot of places would be. So if this is a city centre here, north to northwest in places like Angel, Islington, Soho, Kensington and Hammersmith, even all the way out here, they're generally considered quite safe and expensive areas to live in because they are quite posh neighbourhoods, or just more central to key locations in London, as you'd expect. So if you can afford it, great. But it is quite expensive to live in those areas. Southwest, near Battersea and Clapham, are definitely known for its high Aussie population, as I've mentioned, and for good reason, as it does have a great vibe there, great parks, cafes, just atmosphere is quite nice. However, it is becoming more expensive to live there, and it is located a bit further out of the city, and once again, about the Northern Line, it can be a bit of a pain. So south in kind of Peckham and Camberwell, I personally have not been in, and for good reason, because like I said, it is a bit harder to get to these places as there's not many lines going there, and I also don't really know anyone that lives around there either. Southeast, you'll kind of find Rotherhithe and Deptford. Definitely more of a quieter suburban family neighbourhood and atmosphere if you want more peace and quiet, but not really much of a vibe there, but the prices are more competitive. Northeast, you'll find kind of Whitechapel, Shoreditch and Bethnal Green. Specifically Shoreditch and Bethnal Green, this is more of like a cool hip place to be. If you compare it to Sydney, Australia, it's kind of similar to Newtown vibes, is what a lot of people say. There's heaps of shops, great food, great atmosphere, but it is quite a busy and noisy neighbourhood depending where you are, with a lot of foot and vehicle traffic, sirens going off all the time. So that's something to consider as well. But you can also be in a quieter area if you choose the right place. But it is a very nice neighbourhood to be in. Whitechapel itself, also a very busy area. It can feel a bit kind of dirty and kind of dangerous at night, but it's a great kind of international hub if you want to get around via the tube, or if you want to get a lot of ethnic cuisines. For me personally, I'm based in Canary Wharf. A lot of people say, why are you based there? Because it is a business district, but I really like it there personally. I'm kind of living actually right beside it. So this is the business district, and I'm kind of living in this area here with smaller residential complexes, because there's a lot of larger skyrise complexes here. As a hub, it's great because it's got a shopping mall. It's got a leisure centre down here for swimming, plenty of places to eat, and the fact that it is very well connected with these three lines, it's great. What Canary Wharf probably lacks is a bit of charm and character, as it is quite a new establishment. It's very new and built up, so you won't get your really cute coffee shops or breweries here, but you do get a lovely waterfront neighbourhood to go for a run and watch the sunset from, which is what I actually really love about it. I personally love it here because it has everything I need while still being able to be very close to the city centre, so I can't complain. In knowing what I know now, if I was giving someone advice on an area to move, I'd probably recommend in the north to northeast region, so kind of Angel all the way to kind of Bow area, like kind of this area here. So particularly in probably Hoxton and Haggerston, as it is far more removed from the craziness of Shoreditch and Dalston, but it still has a great atmosphere and is well connected to the overground lines to get you anywhere. So, I hope this guide acts as a better informative guide on where to live in London, because I certainly didn't have this information when I moved. It's going to be daunting either way, and at the end of the day, you need to see these neighborhoods for yourself and see what feels right for you and your needs. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and expect more content like this soon. Until next time, see ya, bye.